celebrating Caribbean glory in this Caribbean American Heritage Month, paying tribute to the British West Indian soldiers who served in the British Army in World War II. That's up next on Carib Nation. Hello, welcome to Carib Nation. I'm Doris Dean. We're here today to celebrate a very special occasion. It's called Caribbean Glory, a tribute to British West Indian soldiers who served in the British Army in World War II. Few people know that over 16,000 West Indian soldiers served in the Army, and 7,000 of those were in the British Air Force. Today, some of them are still alive, and Caribbean nationals in the diaspora have come together to honor them, pay tribute, and to say thank you.
Forward, hop.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host for this evening, Linton Scotland, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to guide you through this historic occasion. Your Excellency, Glenda Orain Phillip, Ambassador of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to the United States, under whose auspices this historic occasion is being held. Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Scotland of Asheville, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors of the many Commonwealth countries who have graciously accepted this invitation to be here this evening, our awardees and honorees this evening, Caribbean nationals, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caribbean Glory, a tribute to the British West Indians who valiantly served the British Army Armed Forces during World War II to ensure our freedom. This historic celebration is the brainchild of Mr. Gabriel Christian, who has made the commitment to celebrate the heroes of the Caribbean region who have displayed valor of the highest order. Your program this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is a once-in-a-lifetime experience where we celebrate the greatness of the Caribbean region. Now I'd like to welcome to the podium Senior Master Sergeant Pierre McLeod, who will deliver the welcome for us this evening.
Greetings, everybody. As the host at here, the West Indian Military Members Association, we want to say thank you for choosing Andrews Air Force Base and giving us an opportunity to organize this function here. Thank you, Mr. Gabriel, for working with us. And I just want to say on behalf of the West Indian Military Members Association that's chatted here in Andrews, I just want to say welcome and thank you again.
Of course, in all things we must put God first. So I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome a representative of the Reverend Dr. Lee P. Washington from Reed Temple AME Church, who would give our invocation this evening.
Let us look to the Lord in prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, we give your name glory, honor, and praise. Thanking you, Lord God, for allowing us first to be here this evening. We pray in the name of Jesus for all those who are here to celebrate our World War II heroes. I pray, Lord God, for all those who have put together this fine occasion, and I pray for all those who have agreed to attend. Now, as we come together in celebration, I pray that our hearts, our minds will mesh together in the spirit of unity and celebration for your glory and for your honor. In Jesus' name, we thank you and praise you. Amen.
I now have the distinct honor to welcome Her Excellency Glenda Moraine Phillips, Ambassador of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to the United States. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellency is the first woman to become a solicitor in Trinidad and Tobago. Ambassador was of the High Commission of Trinidad and Tobago to the United Kingdom and a former Attorney General to Trinidad and Tobago. This evening's celebration could not have been made possible without her. Her Excellency.
Honorable Baroness Scotland of Astor, Attorney General of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. I think Northern Ireland is still part. It is still, so Northern Ireland is included. Honorees, distinguished honorees, distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen. I know that our honorees have had a long day, and I know that they have indicated that they would like to eat. So I wanted to save a part of the formalities for post-dinner. So at this point, I would say no more. I would ask that dinner be served, and then we'll go into the formalities. Is that okay, Justice Cross? Okay, so that's how we do it. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, it is with a sense of gratitude and pride that we have come together to pay tribute to and celebrate the achievements of 4 of our Caribbean World War II heroes. Therefore, as Trinidad and Tobago's ambassador to the United States, and on behalf of the government and people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, I extend warm greetings to Squadron Leader and former Justice of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago, Philip Louis Ulrich Cross, DFCDSO. I want to ask you to stand. The Right Honorable Dudley Thompson, Queen's Counsel of Jamaica, Mr. Wendell Christian of Dominica. And as you have heard from his very illustrious son, he has quite a few of them. And he has done well by all his children, all 7 of them. and Mr. Twistleton Bertrand, also of Dominica. In addition to this opportunity to celebrate our Caribbean heroes, this evening's event has also assumed greater significance by the time and place at which it is being held. First, the recent achievement of the recognition of Caribbean American Heritage Month in June of each year, with effect from 2006, has provided an ideal and appropriate time frame in which this historic achievement, the historic achievements of these Caribbean heroes of 70 years ago can be acknowledged. And I did say 70 years ago. Secondly, a premier military installation, Andrews Air Force Base, in a great nation that is now home to a large Caribbean diaspora, many of whom continue to serve with distinction in the American military, has provided an ideal and appropriate location at which members of a Caribbean diaspora who have served another great and friendly nation in the past can be honored. Thirdly, the fact that our 4 honorees are present here this evening to join in the celebration of their achievements is the coup de grace. Because so often we celebrate our heroes posthumously. But today we have them in the flesh with us. And before I go any further, let me acknowledge Ambassador Smith of the Bahamas. It is this convergence of past and present glory which we celebrate so lustily tonight that will most certainly serve to inspire our achievements in the future. It is therefore now appropriate that we pay tribute to these courageous sons of the Caribbean who reflected our glory during the Second World War, and at the same time express our appreciation to others being honored here tonight for their outstanding service. As the principal representative in the United States of America of the government and people of a Caribbean nation, I feel deeply honored to share in acknowledging and celebrating the contributions of all of tonight's awardees to the peace and prosperity that we all enjoy today. However, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I must also express my special appreciation to the Honorable Mr. Justice Philip Luby Ulrich Cross, Squadron Leader in the Royal Air Force, who is the recipient of the Shakonia Gold Medal, awarded in 1983 by the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Order of Merit of Cameroon, awarded by the Republic of the Cameroon, and the Distinguished Flying Cross and Distinguished Service Order, awarded by the Royal Air Force of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And earlier this evening in the foyer, he was saying that he was glad that he was not awarded the Victoria Cross. And you know why? Because that is usually awarded posthumously. In fact, I should tell you that the young Grenadian Bihari was awarded the Victoria Cross sometime about 2 years ago. So that was another history-making event for another Caribbean person. The transatlantic experience and the impact that have connected our Caribbean jurisdictions with the nations of the North, such as the United Kingdom, and the African continent, is therefore as evident in the ancient history of the Caribbean as it is in the achievements and acclaim of this distinguished son of Trinidad and Tobago, who also served in the field of post-colonial jurisprudence in Ghana as Senior Crown Counsel, the Cameroon as Attorney General, and Tanzania as the founding chairman of the Industrial Court. And I will digress a bit just to say something. When I first started practicing in Trinidad and Tobago, I know that Justice Cross would not remember that. But at the time, you will know that the bench was not as young as it is now. So we had quite a few very stern and rigid-looking judges. And they struck terror generally into the young practitioner's heart. I had the good fortune to appear before Justice Cross in a matter. At that time, the court was at the Red House. Yes, you're looking at me. And I got in there with some trepidation because I was not very much ready with my matter that morning. And to my great surprise, Mr. Justice Cross looked at me and said, "Mistress Morin, how can I help you this morning?" Well, that did it. And he was my favorite judge from then on. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's very distinguished gathering also reflects the richness and enduring connectedness of our diverse Caribbean history with the presence of the Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Scotland of Aspel, Queen's Counsel, Attorney General of England and Wales and Northern Ireland, and I should tell you, the first woman to hold that position in England. And to the ambassadors here present and other diplomatic representatives of African and Caribbean countries, I say I am indeed grateful that you have shown your solidarity with us in this time when we are celebrating not only ourselves, but also all those who look like us and those who want to look like us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the authors, Mr. Gabriel Christian and Judge Irvin Andre, have documented the history in a way in which Caribbean people have fought for freedom. And so I'm very pleased to welcome to the podium Judge Irvin Andre this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremony. Good evening. The Right Honorable Patricia Scotland, Her Excellency Glenda Maureen Phillips, the other distinguished ambassadors, Justice Missouri, the distinguished honorees, distinguished guests, friends, should I say Romans, countrymen. Now, this is obviously a very auspicious occasion. Perhaps for the first time, Caribbean nationals in the diaspora have assembled under one roof to recognize the tremendous contribution of ex-servicemen who gave so much with so little expectation of reward for the cause of freedom. Sir Winston Churchill once said that he was not fearful of the censure of history, since he would be the one writing about it. It is a candid admission that historians invariably record events through lens of myopia and personal bias. It is something which our ex-servicemen are painfully aware of, given that their contributions to the war effort have largely been ignored. Where it is mentioned at all, it is all too often nothing more than a mere footnote in the chronicle of historical events. We are perceived as passive observers, spectators to the unending drama of important events. Gabriel and I undertook this project of writing a book about some of our ex-servicemen. We thought it was extremely imperative to document the contributions of our folk. It was motivated by what Dr. Martin Luther King and more recently President Barack Obama has referred to as the fierce urgency of now. We are at a historical juncture where we must celebrate the tradition of excellence and achievement of our nationals. We must do so to provide some hope and indeed guidance to our young people, many of whom have been debilitated by gang affiliations, drug use, and its attendant vices. The likes of Justice Cross, former Attorney General Dudley Thompson, I should say Rhodes Scholar Dudley Thompson, it's important. Former Prime Minister Errol Barrow, his deceased, Cy Grant, Edward Scobie, the historian, and indeed the Buffalo Soldiers and the Tuskegee Airmen. They all challenged the preconceptions of inferiority, and through their successes, they bored holes not in the proverbial glass ceiling, but in an iron curtain which stymied the efforts of many of those who sought to overcome hurdles within the period. Future generations have been buffeted by the success of these pioneers. I stand on their shoulders proudly. Persons obviously like Baroness Scotland, and if I dare say, my friend Gabriel Christian, certainly one of the leaders of his generation, Dominican and West Indian. We aspire to be part of a process, a growth of consciousness, where success is defined not by pigmentation, but by production, not by amnesia, but by ability. We aspire to gain recognition for our significant accomplishments on the land, on the air, on the sea, and of course on the playground. We also aspire to ensure that the accomplishments of our heroes are not written in water, but live on through the written word and through gatherings such as this. I congratulate all the veterans, all the honorees, the organizers of this event. A special congratulations to the Trinidadian ambassador, who Gabriel has spoken very highly of, and certainly of the tremendous help she's given in organizing this function. I also thank and commend the folks at the Andrews Air Force Base for making this event possible. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting closer to the moment we've been waiting for. But at this time, I'd just like to welcome Chief Judge William Missouri, and he's going to come in and just say a few remarks before we have Baroness Patricia Scotland.
Good evening, everyone. That's weak. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. You are at Andrews Air Force Base, but you're in Prince George's County, Maryland. So we welcome you here. All of us who live here in Prince George's County, we welcome you here. And as my good friend, Mr. Christian, said, I know that I'm going to not go according to the strict protocol, so Your Excellency, please forgive me. But certainly, I recognize Her Excellency, the Ambassador, Glenda Maureen Phillips, and we thank you for being here. We thank you for all you do. To all other ambassadors and the folks who have diplomatic tags, You don't have to worry about leaving here. You won't get tickets. For those of you who do not have diplomatic tags, my jurisdiction extends to the District of Columbia line going west. It extends to the Howard County and Anne Arundel County line going north and east, and extends all the way to the Chesapeake Bay going south. So if you get into trouble, call somebody else. To everyone here assembled, and to my friend Irvin Andre, who I haven't seen for a while, Justice, it's really good to see you again. And I trust we'll get a chance to do a little bit of talking before things terminate this evening, sir. I welcome you to Prince George's County. Prince George's County is the second largest county in the state of Maryland by population. We are probably about 900,000 people now, going for 1 million. But what Justice Andre said really resonates, and that is we are facing the same demons everyone else are confronted with, and that is how to motivate our youth, how to make sure that our senior citizens are taken care of, how to make sure that people don't prey on people who are having difficulty paying their mortgages. And it's one of these times that we all must come together and be aware that we are each other's keepers. So please understand that. And we are glad to see this come about, because I talked to Justice Cross when I came in. We greeted each other, and then he told me that, he said, I was a justice. I said, oh really, how long ago? He said, well, 24 years ago. So wait a minute, how old are you? When he told me he was 92, I tell you, sir, God bless you for all you've done. Okay. I'm just humbled to be in your presence. I had an uncle who passed away. He was an infantryman in a segregated unit during World War II in Europe. And so I applaud everything that you have done and everything you're going to do, because you're going to still teach us all a lot. So thank you very much, sir. And to all of the honorees this evening, I am privileged to be here. Mr. Christian, who is a friend, a dear friend, invited me, and I'm so thankful, Gabriel, that you did. Gabriel Christian, as you should know, is one of the outstanding lawyers in the state of Maryland, not just Prince George's County, okay? I can say that about him because he can't appear before me because we're friends. Before I go any further, I want to introduce one of my colleagues who's here with me tonight. We've been friends for a long time, and Your Excellency should know that you talked to him when we came in. We were on the same level of court. We both started at the limited jurisdiction court. We came to the general jurisdiction court. Then he zipped past me, and he sits on our highest court in the state. That's the Court of Appeals. And in Maryland, there is no justice, my Chief Judge Robert Bell should say. And I bring greetings, by the way, from Chief Judge Robert Mack Bell, who is the Chief Judge of all judges in the state of Maryland. He wanted to be here tonight, but Mr. Christian, he had to go to the Eastern Shore. That's the only reason he's not here tonight. But right now, I want to introduce the Honorable Clayton Green, Jr. Okay. And his wife, Janice. And my traveling partner, who never lacks for me to introduce her, Dolores Missouri. To the right, Honorable, the Baroness Scotland of Aston, QC. I love that. I've never met a QC before in my life. I am thrilled. I want to let you know that, to meet you. And you are the reason, primarily, I have to let you know that I'm here. I really wanted to meet you because I think that what you have accomplished is something so outstanding to most people in this room will not be able to grasp it. What you are doing represents not just the folks from the Caribbean. You represent everyone who had some part of their ancestry begin on that continent called Africa. We thank you for all you did. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to sit down, but we are very privileged tonight because I see that you're going to have a member of the General Assembly who's coming forth. And believe it or not, she's so young. She and my daughter graduated together from high school, and she's been outstanding through high school, and she's been outstanding through everything, through law school. She's an attorney, by the way, so you should know that. And I'm so happy that she's here tonight. So, Delegate Brightboard, thank you for all you do. You're fantastic for the community, and we really appreciate it. And she's sitting at the table with the Chief of Staff from Prince George's County. He's the person that keeps Jack Johnson's books, keeps him out of trouble and what have you. And finally, you've heard all the recognitions from my friend, Roberta Hilton. He and I have been friends since, I don't know when. He was young and I was new. Either I was never young, so he was. Anyway, folks, on a serious note, I am so humbled to be in your presence tonight. My wife and I, and Judge Green, his wife, thank Mr. Christian wholeheartedly. We appreciate everything Mr. Christian does, but more importantly, we appreciate the folks who fought in World War II, expended your time, energies, and efforts to allow us all to be able to speak English or whatever else we want to do instead of Dutchland. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, our featured speaker for this evening is the first black woman to become Attorney General of England, Northern Ireland, and Wales, the Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Scotland of Ashton. You know, I just want to share a quick anecdote. I met the Baroness about 7 years ago when she was featured at the Black MBA organization in Chicago. And a colleague of mine, Ted Childs, came to me and said, well, Linton, how do you introduce her? Do you say your Baroness, your Highness, or what have you? I said, Ted, I don't know. I just say cuz. But I just want to welcome her. It's such an honor to have you here with us, and we look forward to your words to us this evening.
Thank you very, very much for that warm welcome. Can I just say, since each and every person sitting at each and every table is a distinguished guest in their own right, that I can say to all of you, good evening, my friends. Good evening. In the Caribbean, I think we really are one family. And so I would be very surprised if I wasn't related in some way to each and every person of Caribbean descent in this room. But there are some who are actually related to me. And one of them sitting over there, that's Justice Irvin. Another one sitting on the table in which I was sitting, and that's my aunt, Yolande. My aunt is my last remaining aunt, so she is incredibly precious to me. And she remembers someone very special to both of us, and that's my grandfather. My grandfather left at the age of 21 to go to fight in France for the United Kingdom. He left behind a 2-year-old child, my father. And at the time he went to fight, he had no idea what he would face. like many of the honorees here, he had courage, he had fortitude, and he was a West Indian. And we know that that meant something very special. He fought in France, he fought with Allenby in Egypt, and he came home with 3 medals, medals that he wore proudly. Many people asked me, why was I coming here tonight? You know that my country is facing interesting times in very similar ways that right here you're facing less interesting times. And so they said, why are you going? And I was very clear about why I needed to come. I needed to come to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of my country, my government. Thank you on behalf of the people of the United Kingdom. But thank you from me to each and every person that we honor tonight, because they fought for a freedom which we now enjoy. They didn't ask to go. They chose to go. They chose to go at a time when Caribbean men and women were not necessarily recognized because of their color as equal. They chose to go to fight for people they did not know, for people who might not acknowledge their equality or their humanity. But they chose to go because they understood a truth. And that truth is that if one person in our world lives in tyranny, then we all do. And they went to fight for justice. They understood that if good men and women remained silent, then evil would prevail. And I want to thank Gabriel Christian, and I want to thank my cousin Andre, because what they have done is something very special. They've told a story that needed the telling. A story that has never clearly been enunciated and articulated before. And I want to save and thank Gabriel for something very special too. I have a speech of about 9 pages, and he has made it possible for you not to have to suffer it. The history that we see retailed in the films that we saw tonight is a real and poignant history. But when the honorees went to fight for our freedom, they did something very special. Because in fighting for that freedom, they lit a flame which has never been extinguished. They learned something very precious, something that I have been taught by my parents. And I have to tell you that I am the 10th of my parents' 12 only children. And I was the last child to be born on Caribbean soil. And I was born in that beautiful, that wonderful gem of an island, Dominica. But I have to tell you, I'm claimed by Antigua too, because my father was Antiguan. And I'm claimed by Guadeloupe, because my cousins are Guadeloupean. And by Curacao, because they're there as well. And I was one of the 10 only children that my parents took to the United Kingdom, and I was not a volunteer. I left at 2.5. But all the men and women that we honor were volunteers. And they volunteered to lay down their lives for a dream that they wanted to come true. And having lit that flame during the war, they brought the flame home. And if you examine the lives of each and every one of the individuals, the fantastic individuals we honor tonight, you will see that that flame has never been extinguished. That they created something which was very rare and very precious. And if you look at each of their lives, they are the embodiment of justice, of fairness to all. And they have made possible for those of us of my generation to achieve things that would never have been achieved without their sacrifice. Today, the United States Attorney General met with Her Majesty's Attorney General. And it was an interesting photograph. It is now said that in that photograph is the best of the American legal profession and the best of the British legal profession. And they're both of Caribbean descent. If I may, I'd like to read you a poem, and some of you may recognize the words, because they were said by Winston Churchill, that great British Prime Minister, in order to persuade the American administration to come into the Second World War. And it is a truth that was not acknowledged, that the words that Winston Churchill spoke, which I will now read, were the words of a Jamaican poet that was never acknowledged. And the poem is as follows. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave. And for their 1,000 blows, deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men will face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. Those were the words of the Caribbean poet. And it was typical that it was those words that Winston Churchill used to seduce America into coming to our aid. Caribbean words from a son of the Caribbean, but with power and with majesty. So, to all of those who ask, why did I come? I came for you in the same way that in the past you came for me.
At this time, we'll move to the awards part of the presentation of the ceremony, I should say. And we have a couple proclamations that we will be presenting this evening. And at first, I would like to call on Honorable Aisha Braveboy, who is with the Maryland State Delegate, District 25, and of Grenadian heritage, to do the presentation.
I'm honored tonight to not only present proclamations from the General Assembly, but also citations, an official citation from the Governor of the state of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, as well as the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland, Anthony Brown, who also happens to be of Caribbean descent. Be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Janet Scotland of Asheville in recognition of being the first Black woman to serve as Britain's Queen's Counsel, current Attorney General for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. You are a stellar example of unwavering determination and commitment. I commend your leadership, vision, and dedication. Presented on this 18th day of June 2009 by Delegate Aisha Braveboy of Prince George's County. And while Baroness Scotland is coming up, I'll also read the official citation from the Governor of Maryland. From the Governor of the State of Maryland to Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Janet Scotland of Asheville, greetings. Be it known that on behalf of the citizens of the State of Maryland, in recognition of a special tribute to commend you for your leadership and achievement as the first Black woman ever to serve as Queen's Counsel, current Attorney General for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, in honor of your distinguished service, and as the people of Maryland join together in expressing our admiration, great respect, and sincerest best wishes for continued success. We are pleased to confer upon you the Governor's citation under the hand and seal of Martin O'Malley, given this 18th day of June 2009. Honorable Dudley Thompson with us, or a representative? And I'll just read the letter that's from the the Lieutenant Governor, Anthony Brown. Dear Mr. Thompson, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the great state of Maryland to celebrate contributions that the people of Caribbean descent made to ensure freedom around the globe. For many years, you answered the call of duty by joining the Royal Air Force to fight tyranny during World War II and flew missions over occupied Europe. This demonstrated your commitment to your country and fellow airmen. Moreover, I commend you for your continued service to the African diaspora as a lawyer and minister in the Jamaican government. As the son of a Jamaican immigrant, I am proud of your contributions around the world. Thus, as you and fellow veterans come together for today's Caribbean Glory event, please accept my utmost appreciation and deepest gratitude for your bravery and service. On behalf of all Marylanders, I send my best wishes for a wonderful event. Sincerely, Anthony G. Brown, Lieutenant Governor for the state of Maryland. Is Wendell Christian or his representative here? Many years ago, you answered the call of duty by joining the British Army to fight tyranny during World War II. You and your fellow soldiers' efforts to ward off German U-boat attacks in South Caribbean seas were invaluable in securing the victory of the Allied nations. Moreover, I commend you for your continued service in protecting your neighbors and the community in your subsequent career, as an officer of the Dominican Fire Services. And again, this is from the Lieutenant Governor of the State of Maryland, Anthony Brown. And I also have an official citation from the General. I'd like next to call Mr. Twistleton Bertrand. And again, we have an official citation from the General Assembly, as well as a citation from the Governor of the State of Maryland, and a letter from the Lieutenant Governor. And part of it reads, "Many years ago, you answered the call of duty by joining the British Army to fight tyranny during World War II. You and your fellow soldiers' efforts to ward off German U-boat attacks in the Southern Caribbean seas were invaluable in securing the victory of the Allied nations. Moreover, I commend you for your continued service in both the government of Dominica and Canada." And again, this is from the Lieutenant Governor of the State of Maryland, Anthony Brown.
And good evening, distinguished people. It's an honor and privilege to stand here tonight to represent my brother and to stand in his shoes. But the shoes is so big that it will take 5 lives to fit in them. My brother Twistleton Bertrand would have given up almost anything to be here among you tonight, but the Lord had other plans for him. His sister, my sister, Justice Sylvia Bertrand, was buried today on the island of Dominica. Well, he could be no other place but with her to bid her last farewell. I spoke with him just this morning, and he asked that I grace all of you with his thanks and blessings, and special thanks especially to Gabriel Christian and Justice Irvin Andre. I thank you.
I'd now like to call His Excellency Philip Louis Ehrlich Cross. Again, in part from the Lieutenant Governor, Anthony Brown, from the State of Maryland. Many years ago, you answered the call of duty by joining the Royal Air Force to fight tyranny during World War II and led 80 missions over occupied Europe and Germany. This demonstrated your commitment to your country and fellow airmen. Moreover, I commend you for your continued service to the community as judge and later as ambassador on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago to Germany and France. And again, this is written by Anthony Brown, who's our Lieutenant Governor of the State of Maryland, and also, of course, of Caribbean descent. We also have an official governor's citation and also a citation from the Maryland General Assembly.
At this time, we have one of the proclamation, and that will be given by Michael Herman, who is the Chief of Staff of the Office of the County Executive.
Madam Ambassador, you said earlier tonight in talking about people of Caribbean descent, you talked about the people who look like us and the people who want to look like us. Guess which category I fit in? I'm often confused with our county executive. He's a couple inches taller than I am. He's also African American, but it is indeed an honor to be with everybody here tonight. There have been so many beautiful speeches, and I don't think that there's anything that I can say that would much add to the words of Madam Ambassador and Baroness for your lovely tribute to these heroes that we honor today. But I will say that on behalf of the County Executive, Jack Johnson, who could not be with us this evening, he's out of town, he feels very strongly, and Delegate Braveboy spoke of that. We are so blessed here in Prince George's County. This mosaic of multiculturalism is an incredible place. It's one of the most unusual social experiments, not just in America, but in the entire world. And to be so blessed tonight to have not only military honorees of just such impeccable order, but to also bring together so many ambassadors into this room says something very important about this auspicious occasion as been referred to earlier tonight. I want to thank Gabe Christian, a good friend, and Judge Andre for putting this together, and all the people who helped contribute to this, and all the people from Andrews Air Force Base. Because here at Andrews, we recognize that military service is sometimes the price that we have to pay, and we often say that freedom is not free. And tonight we honor not just 4 individuals who understood that the price of freedom is not free and stepped up into the call, as you talked of, Baroness, who volunteered, who did not ask but came because they knew that they needed to be done. This is indeed an honor for me to be here with you tonight and to present proclamations. I'm going to do something that I'm sure is going to violate every international protocol under the planet, and what I'm going to try to do is ask Madam Baroness and all of our honorees or their representatives to please come up so I can collectively do proclamations, so to make this evening move a little smoother, if you would all please come forward. I'm sure there's a protocol officer here, and if I've made a mistake, I humbly apologize. I'm just a lawyer, okay? I'm going to read one. I'm actually not going to read it in its entirety, but I'm going to read the operative language for it. Whereas the Office of the County Executive for Prince George's County, Maryland, wishes to recognize these various individuals during the Caribbean Glory Tribute and Caribbean American Heritage Month celebration. And whereas the Caribbean Glory Tribute honors World War II heroes who honorably served in various capacities throughout the war, and I would say that more than 16,000 West Indians volunteered for service alongside the British during World War II. The men and women who sacrificed their lives to protect the honor and the fellow neighbors and to lend their neighbors and land are commendable and will forever be remembered in history. Whereas the Caribbean American community has contributed immensely to the political, social, economic structure of Prince George's County and to its development while promoting multicultural diversity. And whereas this event represents the tremendous success of the Caribbean American community and honors many of its World War II heroes, now therefore I, Jack Johnson, County Executive of Prince George's County, Maryland, do hereby recognize and congratulate these individuals for their honorable service in World War II and the example they have set for the Caribbean American community of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area during this Caribbean American Heritage Month on this 19th day of June 2009. And further, I extend best wishes for a most enjoyable celebration. Signed and sealed this day by Jack B. Johnson, Prince George's County Executive. Congratulations to all of you. I'm going to violate another really big international protocol. Would all of the ambassadors And Madam Ambassador, all of the ambassadors, please step forward during this presentation. I believe it would be a wonderful tribute to them to be pictured with you as well.
We'd like to ask the Baroness to come, and we'll be presenting some awards to the last set of awards. This is the last set to the honorees, and Judge Andre. And
It's a great privilege to be asked to hand out the last of the awards, the last but not least, to each of our wonderful heroes. Can I just say that I forgot to mention something very important? There was no official monument to the sacrifice and dedication of the men and women who fought from the Caribbean for the United Kingdom until 6 years ago. Now, if you drive down Constitutional Hill, you'll see the most magnificent monument, and I have the privilege of driving through it every day. There are 4 columns, and on those columns is the acknowledgement that we were there. It's the monument for all these gentlemen, and it acknowledges, at last, the huge contribution which is made by the men and women who served in both World Wars from the Caribbean region. And I am very proud of that. The first award, therefore, reads, during Caribbean American Heritage Month 2009, we honour those British West Indians who valiantly served in World War II to ensure our freedom. And the first such award is to Wendell Mackenzie Christian. The next award, in similar terms, goes to Flight Lieutenant Dudley Thompson, QC, OJ, Royal Air Force. The next award is to my favorite debonair squadron leader, Philip Louis Ulrich Cross.
Thank you very much. May I just make one slight please? Yeah. And that is that obviously the quality of service is much more important than the number of those who serve. But I want to remind the people about one particular thing, and that's because it's the only figure I know. The number of Trinidadians who flew with the Royal Air Force in World War II were 250. There were many more ground crew. 250 actually were air crew, of whom 52 were killed. And I accept this on behalf of those 52. Thank you.
The next award is to Twistleton, St. Rose Bertrand. You know, no one told me I'd have to do this. But then they didn't tell me I was going to receive any awards either, which, trust me, I'm really glad, because maybe I wouldn't have come. The next is for Flight Lieutenant Cy Grant.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to say that Cy Grant from Guyana, and so the Guyanese ambassador is the Guyanese ambassador here, was not only a flight lieutenant, but there's a story. He was shot down over Holland in 1943. Of the 6 crew, 4 survived. He fell into a haystack. He was rescued by a Dutch farmer. But the Dutch citizens faced reprisal from the Gestapo if they hid Allied airmen. So the next morning, they gave him up. When the Gestapo came to the Dutch farmhouse, they saw in the uniform of the Royal Air Force a black man. Now that ran contrary to German philosophy that black people could not fly. So they took a picture of him and placed it in the Volkskrieger Beobachter, which is a national German newspaper. And it said in the caption, "Here we have found an officer of the Royal Air Force of indeterminate race." And they, frankly, took good care of him because he was an oddity. He was imprisoned at Stalag Luft 3, which is a famous airman prison of war camp from which the Great Escape took place. There's a movie made of it. But he helped in the Great Escape but could not take part because whereas his other British and Canadian and American flyers who were white could hide out and pretend to be German, there was no opportunity. He left the Royal Air Force, became a lawyer. He was the first black person of color, or first black person rather, on television in England, I was told. Baroness, can I get a corroborating witness? Yes, corroborating witness, she is. And he had his own television show. And I think I'll step back and let the Baroness speak. Yes.
I can say very little more, save to say that Cy Grant epitomized what many people thought of Caribbean spirit. He had ingenuity, he had skill, he had style, and he was really debonair. And I think if you look at the gentlemen here, who may have aged slightly, but I don't think that you can hide the fact that they're all still handsome, debonair, and dashing. So I'm very, very proud indeed to have been able to not only come and give these awards, but actually bask in their presence, because they represent for all of us what we aspire to be. And if our generation and the next generation can be the beacon that these gentlemen have been to all of us, then I think we can truly say we may have made a little contribution to making sure humanity is what God intended it to be.
As a person in this room who knew Cy Grant better than anybody else, may I add 1 or 2 things. He met after the war. We met after the war. When he came back from his prison camp, he was released by the Russians. And we became firm friends, and we decided to do law together. We both called to the bar in England, Middle Temple. When we left the final exam room, I looked at Cy looked at me, and I said, "Cy, never for the rest of my life will I ever do an exam." He said, "Me too." And we went to see the most stupid film we could find. I think it was called, the newspapers called it, Lust in the Dust. Cy and I took our final bar exams together. Cy has never entered a court in his life since then. He was extremely good looking, and I believe the aristocratic ladies in London called him the Deb's Delight. I wasn't so lucky.
I'd like to, at this time, to call on the ambassador to Guyana to share a few remarks.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Unlike Justice Cross, I never had the privilege of knowing Cy Grant, but certainly his reputation preceded him in Guyana and I'm very happy to accept this award and this commendation on his behalf and on behalf of the other. I also like to acknowledge the other Guyanese who served and lost their lives in the war. We still have the ceremonies back home, even one or two. I think the last honoree of the First World War passed away this year in Guyana. So at this moment, our hearts go out to all of them. Thank you very much.
And thanks to all the honorees. Thank you so much.
We're going to ask the Baroness to come right up, since we wish, on behalf of the authors and the members or representatives of the Dominican diaspora, to make a special presentation to her. And bear with me, I'm going to recite this citation. Baroness, whereas you've made us proud with your tremendous accomplishments, and whereas when you started your journey to become who you are, you were told by one of your teachers that you've set your sights too high, that you should aspire perhaps to be the supervisor in a supermarket or something of the kind. And whereas you were the youngest person in over 200 years, as the British say, to take silk, and whereas you've conducted yourself with humility, with dignity, and with extreme intelligence, and whereas we are painfully aware of the hurdles that you have overcome, even though you don't elaborate on them, and whereas we know that despite your accomplishments, you have to prove yourself on a daily basis, because that's the nature of the territory, and whereas you've graced us with your presence, we wish on behalf of all of us here this evening and those we represent to make this special presentation to you. And we ask you to accept this plaque, which will be presented to you by Dr. Clayton Shillingford, one of the luminaries in our Dominican community.
I'd like to say, on behalf of the Dominican Academy of Arts and Sciences, of which I'm president, and we have a number of members here, Irvin Andrew, of course, Gabriel Christian, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, and Linton Scotland here, the main organizers of this kind of event. I think they were absolutely correct in calling it Caribbean Glory. It is a very glorious evening for us all, and one of the anticipations I would have is that at some point we're able to carry the message that we heard this evening to the young people in the Caribbean. I think they need it. They need to know that there were people who served from the Caribbean area in the wars and who fought for freedom. That message needs to get across to them. I think to some large extent sometimes they've, shall we say, lost their way, and we need to bring them back to a path of courage and work and devotion and contribution to our Caribbean history. I don't think they know it well enough. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but I believe it would be absolutely imperative that we get this message across to those folks. Now, as far as Baroness Scotland is concerned, this is the first time I'm meeting you, ma'am. I do know, of course, of your achievements and your history. In fact, on our DAS website, there is a whole story of your life. And if you wish to go there, you will see. Well, not everything. Most of the important things. And you're right there next to people like Archbishop Felix. You're right there next to Justice Aline, Dr. Georges, and other Dominican luminaries, important people in the Caribbean. And I think this is something that we have to do from time to time. We have to take the time to recognize our people, to give them due credit for their achievements. And if we're able to do that, I think we will give our Caribbean nation, our Caribbean people, a greater sense of pride in what we have been able to achieve around the world. And so with those few words, it certainly gives me great pleasure. It's a great privilege for me to give this award to Baroness Scotland. Let me read it. It says, Dominican Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Order of Merit is bestowed upon the Right Honorable the Baroness Scotland of Ashall, QC, Her Britannic Majesty's Attorney General. Sounds very impressive. For excellence in the legal profession and bestowing honor and dignity on the land of her birth, Dominica, and the entire Caribbean diaspora. At Washington, D.C., June 2009, Caribbean American Heritage Month.
I want, if I may, just to say thank you, but to say that I think there's been a conspiracy in this room. First, to shower me with so many presents that I think you really want to see me cry. I am truly honored to be bestowed with so many awards, which I frankly don't feel that I deserve. But I am happy to accept them on behalf of two people who created me and who made sure that I did achieve the things that I achieved, and that's my mother and father. My father died in 2007 in January, and my mother died in December of last year on the 9th. And if I have achieved anything, it's been as a result of their love, their nurture and support, and by the grace of God. They taught me that each and every person is given a gift from God, and that it was our duty to find that gift, to hone it, and then use it for the benefit of other people. And I have tried to follow their example. But had I not had that example, I don't know where I would now be. It's by God's grace that I am here, and by God's grace I hope that I'll be able to give thanks for what we have all achieved together. But can I say thank you to each and every one of you? Because I think we all need to be given courage to take the next step. And when I watch the huge achievements that are in this room, then I have greater courage to take the next step. And I want to tell all the gentlemen here in particular that you needn't be afraid. The future is female. But we love you.
Someone once said, and I agree, that it's not about me, it's about we. That we have to build the team to catch the dream. And all that we are, all that we've been, is the sum total of the personalities, the friends, and the parents that we've had. That is not even better exemplified than in that article by my dear friend John Richards, who sits to the back, who about 20 years ago, while we were at law school, said, I knew a Jamaican, big shot man, big shot, on Georgia Avenue by the name of Curtis Ward. Ambassador Ward is now my brother. And a year ago, to this city came a very gracious, very kind emissary of all people from the island of the hummingbird, the land of Dr. Williams, but also C.L.R. James and George Padmore. The land, as our friend who will come shortly, Winfield Hill would say, of Winston Spree. Also the land of the first general from the Caribbean to serve as the chair of the Inter-American Defense Board. And let's welcome General Ansel Entwine of the Trinidad and Tobago Army. Please, General Entwine, please. General Entwine sat next to me, very quiet, but it is said that modesty is the better part of nobility, so he's noble. But we have here Ambassador Glenda Moraine Phillips, a learned and distinguished jurist, someone who came as the vanguard of the move to organize the Summit of the Americas. And let's congratulate Trinidad and Tobago on doing a wonderful job of receiving President Obama recently, please. And so tonight we want to the organizers of Caribbean Glory want to say that it would not have been possible without the sterling support of Her Excellency and her entire staff, including her indefatigable and intrepid press officer, Monique McSween. Miss McSween, please stand up and be recognized. Of course, ably supported by her husband, because women have the front now. So, without much further ado, Pont Casse Press, Judge Andrea and I, the organizers of this event, the law firm, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but Judge, I think you may want to say a few things as one judge to another, because that's what she was prior to becoming ambassador. But if you could come to the podium with me so we could both honor.
Your Excellency, I haven't met you, at least I met you for the first time this evening, but I can indicate that I know of you. Gabriel has been exuberant in his praise, and Gabriel is not an exuberant man, you know that. But even with his usual hyperbole, I don't think that he could really have exaggerated the extent, it seems to me, to which you've made this evening possible. But not only that, there's an extension of yourself in that certainly one of your compatriots, Mr. Louis, who is the husband of someone who works in your office, who was very kind to meet me at the airport and took me all over the place, including a West Indian restaurant. We ate so much that Ulrich Cross said, it is time to go to bed at 2 o'clock. But we thank you for your tremendous help. And people in the diaspora, we carry a special burden. Why? Because it's something about patriotism which is perhaps indefinable. That is to say that you actually become more patriotic when you're actually away from your land of the birth. And unfortunately, many of the persons, the people, your compatriots on the ground, they don't understand that. They don't realize that. Why? Because they think that you've gravitated to the land of milk and honey, and they think of your success perhaps has been purchased at Walmart. They don't appreciate the sacrifice. They don't appreciate the struggle. But you have come and you have assisted in this tremendous effort, and we're delighted at that effort because, after all, we often say that the Caribbean is stricken by imperatives of insularity, that we only worship our own. And here we have this wonderful gathering made up of persons from every walk of life, from every island, from one continent originally, engaged in this glorious celebration of humanhood, of achievement, and quite frankly, of patriotism. And you have made this possible. And we wish to present to you a token of our appreciation for what you've done, because quite frankly, we have a tendency in the islands or among us only to pay homage to our folk when they have gone by. But we'd like to do so while you can receive it.
And the tribute basically says, Caribbean Glory, Caribbean American Heritage Month. To Her Excellency Glenda Moran Phillip, Ambassador of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to the United States of America and Permanent Representative to the Organization of American States, in appreciation of her dedication to Caribbean unity and recognition of the Caribbean diaspora in the United States of America, June 2009.
When I came to Washington last year in April, at one of my earliest functions, and I think it was sometime in May, I met this, what I would call young man by the name of Gabriel Christian. And he got me in a corner. And he kept me there for at least, I think, an hour. But I was struck by his enthusiasm for his idea. And his idea was what you have seen played out here this evening. The honoring of these gentlemen who paved the way for our freedom, as has been described. So I think all the honor and the glory, or most of it, should go to Gabriel Christian. I don't think there will be many more like him around, but his parents have certainly done a number on us.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Well, we've come just about to the end of the evening, and it's been my pleasure to serve as your host for this wonderful occasion. And so, just in closing, I'd like to call on my brother, my former grammar school, high school classmate, Gabriel Christian, to give a vote of thanks.
I just want to say something about this gentleman here. He wants to skulk away into the corner, but he's the first person to whose home I've been, and I've seen little rockets. You know, he made rocket fuel. He's a chemical engineer. So give a round of applause to a rocket scientist who's posing as a simple MC tonight. But no, he's a great gentleman, and I just want to say that, to paraphrase or maybe support what the Baroness said, that in front of every good man is a better woman. And I want to call on Miss Christian, please. Miss Christian, if you can come, because I do family law, but I don't want to represent myself. Miss Christian has suffered my indulgences for a long time. And sometimes I just keep quiet because you can't win some arguments. I want to ask at this point in time for Ms. Catherine Batiste of the law firm of Gabriel J. Christian Associates to come forward. Ms. Batiste is from Grenada.